Hi, everyone. I have it set to mute when we first get started because we have a lot to cover today and I don't have a lot of time. And I do have ADHD, which means I have a tendency to just keep going on and on if I start engaging with you directly. So we're not going to do that. And I'll go ahead and just keep admitting people. So as you see, I'm wearing a hat and it's not just to cover my grays. It is in fact going to be used for all of the people's names that were interested in being the live demo person today. And so in a moment, we will be doing that, but welcome, welcome. And I'll just give everyone a few more minutes and see if we get a few more people. There were like 35 plus people that were gonna come. So, and I'm gonna just check over here on Facebook and see if I'm getting any messages. Okay, nope, we're good. I hope everyone's doing well. And I am very nosy, so I like to look into each person's face and sort of feel like I'm right there. Hi, Helena. Mwah. And I love that in your space, it's so colorful. She painted the background. It's really nice. And Hallie, I love you have like very nice muted earthy tones. Yes. And Ruthie Ann's quickly diminishing bookshelf. I know what it normally looks like though. And Eva's beautiful, beautiful sunny spot right there in Sweden. And Plim Hypnosis, except I don't know your first two names because it just says Plim. So hi, Plim partners. And Robin and Christine. Okay, we'll just keep admitting everyone. We'll get started here in just a minute. I'll give you maybe 2 or 3 more people.
Hi, Kryssa.
Chris and Nikki.
It's Nikki and Chris from Plim Hypnose.
Nikki and Chris. Okay, thank you so much. That helps a lot because otherwise I just keep calling you both the same name, which is Plim.
It's just going to change it and put it on there for you.
This works. Now I know. I've got it. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Seems like we've got quite a few. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started. I am really excited about hosting this month's group. Is it guest hosting if I'm the owner of the group? I'm not sure. I'm going to call myself just the hostess with the mostest because I don't know if I'm a guest or not. But I have not hosted one of the live monthly groups since June of 2021. And it's not for shyness, as you can see. It's mostly just because I want to give other people an opportunity to get up there on that stage. People who are, early on in their careers and just want to get a feel for what it's like to run a group and have somebody like me in there helping them every step of the way, but also more seasoned professionals who have been doing this for a long time so that they can impart all of their, wisdom and hints and tips for success for us. And so I sort of go back and forth. And the last couple of months, it's been more of a sort of a casual meet and greet. But traditionally, it's more of a class format. And so we're going to go back to that this month because I want to teach you Mike Mandel's Ego States Transformation Protocol. And I think everybody does it their own way, but I'm going to stick pretty close to the way he does it. Though I've been doing it for a while now, so I've definitely added some of my own elements into it. And he was actually going to teach it himself this month. But when we figured out the date that this happens and the date that he's available or not, and as the case may be, it didn't work out. He's actually having some sort of a little men's soiree with Chris Thompson and Michael C. Anthony at the cabin up there outside of Toronto. So somewhere north of Toronto, I don't even know where it is. So I'm going to just step in and teach this this brilliant protocol of his in his place. And I am no Mike Mandel. I have more hair, as you can tell. There might be a few other, differences between us too. But I wanted to share with you that he says that he sort of came up with it based on a number of other hypnotists that have come up with similar things, ego states, parts therapy, etc. And I'm going to launch into a little of that because I've actually changed a little bit based on just my own stuff, which it's kind of impossible not to do, right? But I want to just do a little bit of housekeeping with the group first. So if you have questions or comments throughout this class, just drop them into the chat and I will read them at the end. I'm not even going to look at them until then because otherwise I'll get totally distracted. Debs usually runs my calls and she knows that I will absolutely get distracted. So, and today I wanted her to benefit from being a student instead of a moderator. So I'm running the whole thing myself. And if you need to leave early, feel free to just do that. You don't need to announce it or anything because I may or may not have somebody in a state of trance. And so you can just sort of tiptoe on out and that's fine. Let's see. And I think that's really it for now. I'm going to structure this class into 4 parts. So first, we're going to launch into the intake and the pre-frame, and this is something that will make or break how effective your session is, your ego states transformation session. So take notes if you can. And this will be available in the feed for all time. So if you miss something, you can always go back and do it again. Then secondly, I'm going to randomly choose our demo participant. I've got all the names here from everybody who put their name in. And I'm going to use my hat for that. And then we're going to launch right into the protocol with whoever that is. Third, we're going to, after we help this person make a transformation with one of their ego states, we're going to deconstruct each step of it so that you understand why it works the way it works. And even though it's really simplistic, it's incredibly powerful. And so it's helpful to know like what it is that's happening at a neurological level when you're doing this. Fourth, I'll open it up for questions and answers. There may not be a whole lot of time for that at the very end. So if there's a bunch of questions that I don't get a chance to get to before the hour is up, I can stay on longer. Anybody else who wants to can too. But since it'll be on the live feed, you'll always be able to go back and watch it later. Okay, so as I said before, I picked this up from Mike Mandel. He says he was inspired by Paul Federer, Gordon Emerson, and Robin Shapiro. And that he stumbled upon this method of doing it himself quite by accident when he was working with an ego state of his own. Now, I started using it based on a class that he taught in January of 2021, I believe it was. And then I've also been somewhat inspired by the work of Roy Hunter, sort of the modern day godfather of parts therapy. Richard Schwartz, who's the founder of Internal Family Systems, and Sean Carson, who I've been recently reading his book, Deep Trance Identification, and pulling some things in from that into my ego states transformation sessions. But for the most part, this is still pretty close to Mike Mandel's original model. So I'm going to go ahead and risk taking my hat off, knowing that I will have hat hair. And gray hat hair at that. And we're going to go ahead and put all of these names in here. I'm sort of debating whether I should let the gray just happen. That's why I haven't done anything about it. All right, I'm going to pick the name. We have Violetta Grozavu. Is she here? And if she's not, we'll go with another name. If you are here.
Yes, I am.
Okay, just put the little hand up in your emoji down there at the bottom, and then that'll pop you up to the top. Do you see it in the reactions? There you go. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. So now I can dump the rest of them. I'm so glad that you shut up. Otherwise, I just have to keep pulling names. So thank you. We get to work with Violetta. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and go through the intake and the pre-frame with Violetta so that you can see how I do all of this. So let's see if I can go ahead and just make her a co-host. And all right, there we go. And other people, okay. All right, so the first thing that I do is well, at this point, I would normally like know a little bit about you, at least because you would have filled out some sort of just your contact information, where you're from and that sort of thing. And normally I would do about 10 to 15 minutes of sort of building rapport and going through my intake form. But for today's class, we're going to keep it to just like a couple of minutes. Okay. And so here's 5 questions that I ask everyone. I call these the miracle questions. And this helps me to get sort of in communication with your subconscious mind already. So go ahead and unmute yourself if you're muted and tell me how to pronounce your name, please.
Hi, Violeta.
Yes.
Sorry, it's a bit
What are you
late.
sorry
I'm
for?
in
Don't be sorry.
London.
No, I'm glad that you're here. This is great. Are you ready to transform one of the ego states that are just not doing their best job for you?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk about which one in just a moment. So here's what I'm going to ask of you. And I'm going to get a piece of paper so I can write down your answers. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. And I just want you to answer each question with whatever the very first thing is that comes to your mind. It can be a thought, a feeling, a color, a word, a sentence. It doesn't even matter. And it may or may not have to do specifically with the ego state we're going to talk about. But I just want you to there's no right or wrong answers. Okay.
Okay.
So the first question is, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you most want to release right now, Violeta?
Fear.
Okay. What do you most want to acquire?
Success, wealth.
What do you most want to understand?
Why I stand in my own success.
Why you stand in the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you most want to transform?
Transform my
Well, now we've left the subconscious mind because it's taking you a while to think about it, which means it's not the first thing that popped up. So we'll just skip that question and go to the last question. So this is the miracle question. It's actually the most important one. So let's say we have this session today and these miracles do occur. You are releasing fear. You are acquiring more success and wealth. You have an understanding of why you stand in the way. And perhaps more importantly than the why, you have an understanding of how to get out of your own way. So instead of looking at the past, looking at the future, what I want to know is, how will you know that these miracles are happening? What evidence would you see in your day-to-day life that you could point to and say, aha, the miracles are happening. Look, there's proof. What would you see? What would you look for? What would be different?
What would be different? I would say that I'll make a difference in people's life.
How would you know?
Because they will tell me, they will reach out to me and thanking me for it.
Okay. And the reason why I ask these questions is because sometimes you'll get answers that don't necessarily have anything to do with the specific issue, but they give you an understanding of what's going on underneath it. But it also gets me just in communication with your subconscious mind, right? And that's pretty important for the work that we're going to be doing, because I can have all the rapport in the world with your conscious self, but if your subconscious doesn't trust me, then we're not going to have a very effective session. Okay. And so let's go ahead and just in, 2-3 minutes, if you can give me an explanation of what it is that you would like help with, what issue you would like help with today.
I seem to kind of judge myself too much. Yeah.
Okay. So the transformation that you would like this part to undergo would be to not be so self-judgmental. Is that?
Yes, and but I'm not good enough. I'm not really good enough.
So the fear is that you're not good enough, the feeling?
Yes, and
all right, so that's good. And you kept it pretty short, which is perfect. So thank you for that. So within us all, we have between 50 and 150 different parts. And this is not like different personalities. It's not to be confused with multiple personalities, right? But it's like sub-personalities. And all of these different parts play a really, really important role in our lives. And there's only one that's in the executive or in like, you know, the person I'm talking to right now, Violetta, there's one part of you that is talking to me. But that doesn't mean that that's your only part, right? So the part of you that woke up this morning, made yourself breakfast and coffee is probably not exactly the same part that's right here, right now, which is not going to be the same part that is a hypnotherapist in her own right who's conducting sessions, right? So there's all these different parts. So for me, the part of me that makes my store lists to go to the farmer's market and go to the grocery store is never, well, I shouldn't say never, very rarely the same part that gets hungry and actually wants to eat. So like I get hungry and then I look in my kitchen and I'm like, what the hell is all this healthy food doing in here? Like, that's not what I want. But the part of me that wants me to be healthy is who made the store list. And so there's all these different parts, right? And you can imagine how if you had the scared 7-year-old little girl part that got bullied on the playground show up when you're supposed to be giving a lecture to an entire auditorium of people in a public speaking venue, you know, it's not that there's anything wrong with that little girl part, although she could benefit from some healing, but she's showing up for the wrong job, right? We need to get the right part in for the right job. And all of these different parts, they're actually real things. It's not just a model. There are neural pathways that light up in the neocortex based on who's showing up in our executive. We know this from brain imaging scans of people that are engaged in specific activities. And so those specific activities would call forth a certain part of their personality. For example, somebody who's playing piano, right? We can see the part of their brain that is lighting up when they're playing piano. And it may come as no surprise that that is not necessarily the same ego state, the same part of the brain, the same neural pathway that lights up when that same person is playing piano in front of a crowd. It's two different parts, same skills, they share skills, but it's not the same part. And so when you have the wrong part showing up for the right job or the right part showing up for the wrong job, then we have to make sure that we can find a way to work with that. And oftentimes it's the vaded states that are showing up in these situations where they end up sabotaging or derailing you. And there's, again, they don't mean to. They're not trying to. They just need some help. And so there's a difference between like a healthy integrated state and then a vaded state. And there's also such a thing as an introject, which we may or may not come across in today's session. If we don't naturally run into an introject with Violetta, please somebody just make a note to ask me about them and I'll put it in the question and answer at the very end. So anyway, Violetta, do you understand how working with this part will, in bringing it into its own highest good, will help you come into alignment with your own highest good? And then integrating it back into you. Okay, perfect. So before we launch into it, there is one more part. Mike calls it the highest wisdom ego state. I call it your highest self. Some people might refer to it as your super conscious mind. Paul McKenna calls it the big mind. There's many different terms for it. pick whatever works for you. I call it the highest self. Are you okay with that? If I refer
Yes,
to
yes,
it
yes.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, totally.
Some people who are, less woo would prefer that I call it the highest wisdom state, and I'm totally okay with that. It's kind of the same thing. And I see this part, this wisest part, as actually moving beyond the subconscious and in the realm of the highest consciousness. But these different levels of consciousness are really just a model to explain the human experience. So it's entirely up to you how you choose to perceive this, and maybe check in with your clients too, to sort of see where they're at as far as what language you would be using. Okay, so I've gotten all of that out of the way. Do you have any questions for me before we get started?
No.
Okay. So the beauty of this particular protocol is it doesn't require a super deep trance. And that's not to say that you can't do a beautifully super deep trance and also incorporate ego states transformation, but it's not necessary. And so with that in mind, go ahead and get yourself comfortable, and you're going to have your eyes closed. So just don't even worry about what the camera's seeing. And I can put it so that it's mostly on me if you want. I think it is mostly on me. So all I want you to do is you can keep your eyes open for now and just bring your awareness to your breath. And just breathing in brand new, pure, clean, fresh, unused energy, and exhaling out all the old, used up energy. Just in with the new and out with the old. And as you're doing that, just bring your awareness to that tiny little space that is in between your inhale and your exhale. And that tiny little space that is between your exhale and your inhale. And that has the remarkable ability of placing you right here, right now. Because it's impossible to focus on that tiny little space and maybe even making it bigger. That tiny space between your inhale and exhale and your exhale and inhale. You can't focus on that and also think about yesterday or tomorrow. And so right now, in the here and now, just allowing any other distractions that you may hear, whether in this Zoom room or in your own home, or even in your own thoughts, to just drift off in the noosphere and not disturb you at all. And if at any point you find that you do need to attend to something in your own home, you'll be able to emerge from this state of trance quickly and easily, feeling refreshed and wonderful. And so right now, I just want to talk to that part of you that judges yourself. It doesn't feel good enough. And that seems to be standing in the way of your own success in love. And in a moment, that part of you that has everything to do with this self-judgment, with this self-sabotage of your success, will just be right there in your room, perhaps right in front of you, maybe slightly off to one side. Think of it like an avatar. It is a representation of this particular ego state or this part. And when you see, sense, feel, or know that this part is right there in your space, becoming real to you, just say, it's here.
Yeah, it's here.
Perfect. So the first thing we want to do is just thank this part for agreeing to come and communicate with us. Just say thank you. We're going to work on helping this part step into its own highest good, which will, of course, help you to walk the path of your highest good. And so tell me, please, how do you imagine this part to be right now?
I mean, how it's looking like, or
What's the first thing that you notice about it? Is it something that is a look? Is it a feeling? Is it anything? We'll get into more.
it is a feeling. It is in my my tummy.
Okay. And now I would just like you to ask this part what its name is. And the first word that pops into your head is always the right one.
What is the meaning?
What is the name?
What
Just
is
say,
the
what should I
name?
call you? What do I call you?
What do I call it?
Just let that information drop right into your awareness.
Disturbance.
Disturbance. And what do you imagine this part to look like?
I, Right now it's like a vortex.
So thank you, disturbance, for revealing yourself. And feel free to continue to reveal more and more of yourself so that you become fully fleshed out. And let's ask disturbance, what is its job in your life?
I have to ask this.
Yeah, just say, what is your job in my life?
Okay, what is your job in my life? Distracting you.
Did you say destructive?
Yeah, to distract you.
Okay. And ask this part, ask disturbance, how old were you when it first came into your life?
How old were you when you first came into my life?
And let it give you the answer. It might be earlier than you expect. Just let it tell you. The very first number that popped into your head when you first asked it, even if it doesn't seem like the accurate one, is the number that it believes. Was there a number that came into your head immediately that you said to yourself, oh, that can't be right?
It just, I think 4.
Is that you telling it or it telling you?
It just takes me with takes me to a memory.
Okay, and you were 4 in the memory. Perfect. That's beautiful. That's definitely one way. And so you can, if you want, share a little bit about that memory so that we understand why it came into your life at 4. But if it's something that's highly personal or re-triggering, then we don't have to do that. We can actually work with this part without needing to know the specifics of why it came into your life. It's up to you. Would you like to share that, or should we just go ahead and help it?
Yeah, I was supposed to say a poem to my uncle's and auntie's school. I was not going there, but it was just Christmas, and because I was the niece, they took me and took me to the school with them, or kindergarten. No, it was school, and they teach me a poem to say for Santa Claus to receive a present, and I repeated that poem at home, but when it was my turn to say it out loud in front of people, I just had blank, couldn't remember anything.
So you had repeated it at home and had it memorized, but then when it was time to say it in front of everyone,
yeah.
And how did you feel in that moment?
I blanked out I remember saying how can I can't remember anything.
And if that feeling was in your body, are you able to find where it was in your body?
It is now in my chest.
Okay. So it started in your stomach, your tummy, and now it's in your chest?
Yeah, it's in my chest.
Okay. Before we move on with the transformation of the part, I want you to just tell me if that feeling in your chest had a color, what color would it be?
It's like purple.
And if peace and calm in your chest had a color, what color would that be?
Peace and calm.
Yeah, what color is peace and calm in your chest?
It will be turquoise.
So let's shine a turquoise light on your chest so that that purple starts to become turquoise. And we'll keep that light in place. And now going back to this part, whose name is disturbance, who is presenting like a vortex, I would like to ask it a few questions. So this light in your chest is just going to keep happening in the background while I talk directly to disturbance. And what I would like to ask disturbance is there something that we could do to make it feel safe, to make it feel like it is living its best life? Let's give it some ideas first, because a lot of times these parts don't realize that they have the option to change. So let's give it something. Maybe give it a nice big comforting blanket and see if it likes that. Does it like that? Try a suit of armor. Does it like that? Ask if it maybe would like to look more human. What can we give it to bring it more joy, more peace, more safety? Has it changed what it looks like at all? Is it still a vortex?
Yes, and it's pressing on my chest now.
Let's ask it to maybe start moving in the opposite direction. And it doesn't need to be in your body. It can be standing right in front of you.
Standing in front of me.
It's just a part. We're giving it an avatar so that it can look like whatever it needs to look like for us to perform this transformation. Did it start to spin in the opposite direction by any chance?
No.
And you gently coax it to start spinning in the opposite direction. Just use your imagination. If it's going clockwise, just gently coax it to go counterclockwise, moving in the opposite direction.
I think it wants to come up my throat.
Yeah, then let it. Maybe it needs to just come right out.
Ooh.
And now what does this part look like?
I don't know, it just makes me feel dizzy.
Let's just get it outside of you, not inside of you. And I'm going to tell you a little story about a part that I ran into once, okay?
Okay.
And just center yourself back into your breath. This vortex is no longer inside of you at all. Okay, just light on your chest. Beautiful turquoise healing light, breathing it into your lungs. I used to be agoraphobic. I really struggled to even get out of my house at all for years. I started doing an ego states transformation on myself. And yes, you can do it on yourself. And the part that showed up also made me quite dizzy at first. When I was able to have it stand in front of me instead of being inside of me. And that's really important for the transformation, Violetta. I noticed that it had many, many arms, like an octopus. And all of these arms were flailing about, and they all had, like, all these tentacles had the suckers on them. And every single time I tried to leave my house, it had to grow a new tentacle in order to grab onto me and pull me back in again. And each one of those tentacles basically represented a panic attack. And so when I started talking to this part and asking it, well, what is your job in my life? And it said, well, to keep you safe. And the way that it was doing its job of keeping me safe was giving me debilitating anxiety so that I couldn't leave my house. And so I started working with it, asking it if I could give you anything to help you feel safer so that you don't have to keep doing this in my life, so that you can have a way of doing this job better. Would you like that? And it said yes. And so we started working on the transformation. I asked it, do you really need to have all those arms? And it said, no, I guess not. And I said, well, how many would you like? And it said, I guess I'll just take the usual amount. I'll have 2. I said, okay. How about some legs? And it said, yeah, we'll stick with 2 of those 2. That would be good. And I said, okay. And then it said, well, I want the option for the arms to still turn into tentacles if they're necessary, but I'll keep them as arms most of the time. And then it still had the face of an octopi. So I asked if it wanted a different face, and it showed me a photograph of myself at the age of 23 and changed into that. I thought that was cool because I was like, well, I want that face too, but I guess I already had it, so you can have it now. And it was so happy that it didn't have to keep doing this particular job in that way. And then I was able to work with it to transform it into being able to do this job of keeping me safe in a much better way. And then we reintegrated. And then it also got to meet my highest self. And so this is what I wish for you today, Violetta. This part is right now outside of you so that we can communicate with it, because it's not very happy in its current incarnation. We want to bring it some happiness and some peace. Can you imagine if you're feeling dizzy? Imagine how it feels constantly spinning in this vortex. And so by getting it to go in the opposite direction, we're just showing it that it does have some power and some control over its own self. And then let's slow it down so that it's not spinning anymore, because we can do that. We can just offer it that, and it can say, oh, I didn't even know that that was an option. And let me know when it finally stops spinning at all, and we can just communicate with it. Let it take some breaths.
It is stopped.
Perfect.
I'm not dizzy anymore. It's just it's slightly in my tummy again, and my chest is it's better. My chest is better. It's not heavy.
What do you imagine this part would look like if it could look like anything at all?
Oh.
Like an avatar.
Come on, Thor.
How tall is it? Is it
I
human? Is it an animal? What is it?
It's not human.
So we might actually be dealing with an introject. And here's how you find out. I never prepare people for this possibility because it doesn't happen as often as you would think. But if it's an introject, this is really good news, Violetta, because they're super easy to release. And here's how you do it. All you have to do is directly ask it, are you truly a part of me? Are you truly an ego state of mine? Or have you just been hitching a ride? Did somebody else cause you to be a part of me? Am I just carrying you along by accident? And if it starts to disappear or get smaller or just turn around and go away,
Truly part of me.
then that means it was just an introject. It wasn't really a part of you.
Truly part of me. I'm just.
Does it start to change at all? Does it get smaller, distant, anything?
Yeah, actually, I feel it shrinking in my bottom belly. It's shrinking.
Perfect. So I think we are dealing with an introject. I want you to just go ahead and allow yourself to see, where did you pick up this introject? And somebody's face will just pop into your mind, or maybe just the knowledge of who they are if you don't see them visually. Could be a parent, could be a teacher, could be somebody that was in the audience when that part came into your life. Where did this part first start hitchhiking a ride in your consciousness?
It just came to my memory. My uncle. He's like I think 2 years older than me, and maybe at that time he was learning a poem too.
So here's what we get to do. Go ahead and let it shrink down. And then we're just going to send it back to your uncle. It's not your part. You don't even have to keep carrying it around any longer. And then we're going to go find the part of your confidence real quick so that we can get that one to step into your executive state for all of these changes. Just hand it back. Just imagine that this tiny little part, you're just giving it right back to your uncle. You're saying, here, you left this behind. This is not mine. It's yours. You can do whatever you want with it, but I'm not carrying it around anymore. It's been hitchhiking.
Not carrying it anymore with me.
Perfect.
This is not mine.
How do you feel now?
Well, it's still there.
The feeling of it, or the part is still standing in front of you?
I'm still feeling in my stomach.
Well, let's ask the real part that is associated with whatever's left. If you need to cough, cough, because maybe that's just releasing the last bits of it. It looks like you are about to cough. Or yawn. Yep, that does it. Perfect. Hey, there you go. Just let all of that energy move right on out of you. There you go. you remember that beautiful turquoise with the peace and the calm?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to ask that part, that beautiful turquoise part with the peace and the calm, really quickly to just tell us what its name is. That peaceful, calm, confident part. What is its name? First word that pops into your head.
Trust.
Trust. Perfect. And trust is exactly the right part to help with all of this. So all of the places in your body that were previously affected by that nasty little introject that had just gotten a chance to hitchhike a ride with you for all these years, I would like to have that part, trust, just go fill in all those places with that beautiful turquoise color, just as if it has a paint can full of light, photons of turquoise light that it's pouring right into you, into all those places, right inside your belly and your chest and anywhere else that were adversely affected by that introject. And now I would also like to ask your highest self to come on board so that all of the parts of you that need further integration and healing can go ahead and get that from your highest self. And if your highest self agrees to do that, just say, yes, I can do that. As soon as you hear those words in your head, that wisest part of you that loves you, that only wants the best for you, that is unconditional in its compassion, we're just going to have it work with all of the other parts. Because normally this could go on much longer, but we want to,
Yeah.
for the purpose of this class, allow your highest self to just come right in and do this.
Yeah. Okay. It's great.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead and have your highest self gather together with that turquoise part of trust. And let that turquoise part of trust begin to flesh itself out a little bit more so that it can do all of the work that it needs to do for you. Does it require anything of us? Does it require anything at all? Does it require a hug from you? Does it require to transform how it looks in any way at all? Does it need any resources from you in order to become a bigger part of your life?
I just I keep hearing the knowledge.
Okay, so what would be a
Just
good way to do knowledge? Can we give it maybe a magic book that has all the knowledge that it could ever seek? Just see if it likes that idea.
yeah. Yes.
Perfect. Now we're dealing with a real part. I'm so glad everybody gets to see this. Okay. Dealing with interjects. Anyway, so we're with the real part. Now that it knows that it can have what it needs, let's give it anything else it needs. It liked the book. What else does trust need from us in order to do its job to the very best of its ability? Let it show you. It's got a magic book. What else?
Belief.
Okay. How can we give it that? Maybe we can give it a really beautiful, like long gown that makes it feel very divine, or something that gives it that sense of I can be the highest form of belief there is. Try anything. It'll start to share with you what it needs once it realizes that it can. Maybe give it a crown. Does it like that idea? Like a royal crown on its head.
No, that's true.
Just let it show you. Good. What will bring it peace and knowledge and confidence? You could just start handing it things and see if it takes any of them until it realizes that it can tell you what it wants and needs.
I see a heart.
A heart? Perfect. And how is the heart revealing itself? Is it like a piece of jewelry, or is it an actual human heart, or how is it revealing itself? Just the symbol?
Oh, actually, I have a stone. It's
There
a
we go.
heart shape. Oh, wow. I have a crystal in a heart shape.
It's showing you that?
Yeah.
Perfect. Give it to that. Give it to that part.
Okay.
Is it happy now? Does it need a place to keep it? Can we give it a pocket or a purse, or maybe put it on a necklace for it, so it always has that heart-shaped crystal?
Yeah, that will do.
Okay. Is it smiling, this part?
She's good. Yeah.
Well, we want her great. So what else does she need from us so that she feels just absolutely wonderful, confident, resilient, full of strength? What other resources can we give her? Your highest self is right there to help her with all of this. So let's just give her everything that she could possibly need.
I
What
think
would
she
make
needs
her the happiest?
a little bit more love.
Okay. Could you maybe give her a hug?
Yeah, I love giving hugs.
Let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's give her a hug. Just gather your arms around yourself so that you're hugging your highest self, as well as this part of trust to you right now, feeling that love, feeling that transformation, feeling that bond at the point of integration, just breathing in all of these wonderful changes, honoring your ego states and the speed with which they're able to change and transform. Breathing in these transformations, knowing you'll never be separated again. This part of you, this trust, has a much clearer path now that introject is out of the way entirely, given back to your uncle where it should have been all along. And now trust in your highest self can come together. And trust knows her place and loves you for who you are. And so by you reaching out and giving her this love, it just completes the circle. And your highest self is right there as you look to her for guidance and strength and that unconditional love and wisdom that is always available. And trust now has knowledge. Knowledge and love and trust. What a perfect trifecta. So feeling good and going even deeper now into trance if you would like. You're doing an amazing job, Violetta. You're doing an amazing job. And I would just simply like to ask if trust can now just go spend some time with your highest self, that wisest of all states, continuing to learn and grow and feel even more integrated and better as each day passes. What does trust say to that?
Oh, she will love to.
Perfect. And let's ask your highest self to form a committee with trust, a committee of your strongest parts, a family, so that all of these ego states will continue to integrate and heal and strengthen each other and live to their fullest potential of their most positive traits, which are really just resources for you that will help you to live your very best life. And this committee would be set by you to find the outliers, to find any of the other parts that need to be healed and integrated. And maybe they've been separated from you, or maybe they've been repressed, or maybe they've been in pain for years, possibly even decades. And now they're going to get that nurturing, that support, that strength, that reintegration, that connection that they so need. Always working together for your highest good, healing the sad states, integrating the distant states, bringing everyone back into the family that is Violetta. And then when they're healed, they can join that committee and go out in search of other parts, other ego states, just continuously working right beneath the surface of your awareness, bringing love and strength and building new neural pathways. Are you willing to do all of this right there in the background of your experience?
Yes.
Thank you. I honor you for doing this at exactly the right rate and pace for Violetta, accelerating her alignment in whatever is in her highest good, integrating comfortably on the count of 1, feeling wonderful and rested on the count of 2, knowing that all of these changes that you have been seeking have now been implemented. And all you need to do to keep them going, Violetta, is simply acknowledge them. On the count of 3, waking up each day to find actual evidence, to find proof that these transformations are already underway. And because we always get more of whatever we're focused on, you will find your life filling with one beautiful transformation after another. And on the count of 4, taking in a deep breath as everything we've done today installs and integrates at the deepest levels of your heart and psyche. On the count of 5, feeling wonderful, feeling integrated, rejuvenated, ready to greet your life anew, you can open your eyes and be wide awake now. Great job.
Wow.
It took a little longer, but I'm excited that everybody got to see what an introject is like, because when you come across them, sometimes they're sneaky. They can seem like they are a real part. They want you to think that they're a real part because they want to continue to hitchhike a ride. So, but here's the thing, as soon as you address them and say, hey, are you a real part? If they're not, they can't stick around.
I feel a bit dizzy now.
Well, drink some water and recenter yourself. Just bring yourself back into, back into your body.
So I want to say I was shaking at one point.
I saw that, yeah.
And my tummy is it's calm now. My chest is free. Just I have a little bit of dizziness, but otherwise I'm great.
Well,
wow,
just keep
thank you so
picturing
much.
turquoise and trust. Just keep picturing that. And that heart, that crystal heart, I think it would be a great idea for you to carry that around in your pocket for a while, or put it on a necklace or something, because that will keep that part just right there with you at all times.
I just realized I have 2 hearts and one of them is turquoise.
Ah, there we go. How perfect is that?
I can't believe that. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know that some of you might have to go because we're already at 3 o'clock, but I wanted to do a quick deconstruction of this. So if you're able to stick around, then great. If not, I'll make sure that it all gets live streamed so that you can watch that. But this is so fabulous that you are able to just get rid of that one introject that wasn't even a part of you. It just accidentally got stuck in there, and it belonged to your uncle all along. So I'm really glad. And to be able to bring trust back into the fold. So thank you.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Oh, it's quite an honor to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you so
so
much. It's
I
really very
normally would
helpful.
spend a little bit more time with the client debriefing them, but because it's a class, I'm going to move on. But thank you so much, Violetta. It was really an honor.
I'm truly grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. So I always start every session with those 5 questions, the miracle questions. It's my own thing. And the reason I do that is because it bypasses the critical faculty and helps get us into communication with the client's subconscious without having to spend 20 minutes of rapport building. And don't be surprised if a person starts to cry when you get through some of these questions, because they are in fact talking to, you're talking to a part of their subconscious, and it's kind of raw, and you want to bring that up, because that's showing you, then it's bringing up that part that needs to be worked on, right? And so I always start with that. And then when I ask them, what is exactly that you would like to accomplish today, I ask them to just try and keep it, to like 10, 15 minutes, because most people, especially if they've ever been in any sort of talk therapy, they think they're supposed to tell their entire life story to you. And that's just not necessary, nor is it helpful. We're not working with them at a conscious level for the most part. We're hypnotists, right? Except for the handful of us that are also psychologists or psychotherapists, but most of us are hypnotists. So it's not about talking to their conscious mind. It's about talking to their subconscious mind. So just enough to get that part up to the surface into the executive so that we can deal with it, but not so much that they're now telling you everything that's happened in their entire life. And I always state that at the beginning. Like I want them to know. For some people, it's really relieving. They're like, oh, thank God, I don't have to tell my whole life story again, And for other people, they might still want to, and they might just be in a place where they just need that extra bit of validation. And so maybe let them go on a little bit just so they get that, because that is a necessary part of healing too, right? But just let them know that it's not really, that you're not going to be working with them on that level. You're not a psychotherapist. Okay, so once we've gotten through all of that, the pre-frame is super, super important. And that's the part where, and I think I probably could have done a little bit better of a job even in this class, honestly, but you want to break the pre-frame up into what are the parts? Like we all have them. There's nothing wrong with you. This is not multiple personality disorder or DID. These are sub-personalities. And then give examples. The one I gave about like the part that makes my list before I go grocery shopping is generally never the part that actually gets hungry, There's other examples. There's so many examples. There's lots. Like you could be, well, Violetta had a perfect example. The part of her that had been rehearsing that poem over and over and over again and just knew it, was not the part that showed up when she went to go and say the poem in front of an audience on stage, right? So we need to just talk to them about all these different parts, and then have them imagine, like, what would life be like if they had the right parts and the right jobs? Sometimes a part that, let's say a protective part, because that's often what we're dealing with, doesn't even want to be in the job of protection. It's a really important job, but maybe this particular part wants to be in the job of playfulness, of whimsy. And so when it starts transforming, it might grow wings, or it might put on a dancing dress, or it might start spinning around, or something playful, right? Because it was actually in the wrong job all along. And so we go ahead and work with that part to get it to whatever its exalted state is, whatever makes it the happiest. We can't force it. We can offer suggestions, as you saw me doing, where I'm like, hey, what if we give you this? What do you think of that? And if it doesn't want it, it will let you know, just like you saw with Violetta when I was like, what do you think of putting on like a long dress that makes you feel more divine? And it was like, no, don't need that. And so it'll let you know, but you might still need to offer some suggestions just to kind of get those creative juices flowing. And even though I am using this as my primary form of hypnotic change work with the subconscious mind, I also do work with the highest consciousness. And the cool part about ego states transformation is no matter where I'm at in a session with highest consciousness, if a subconscious part decides to get in the way, I can immediately just address it with ego states transformation. So for example, let's say I've got somebody in a quantum journey hypnosis session and we've got them relatively deep, but then something comes up and keeps preventing them from going into a deep enough state of trance for them to have their highest self speaking through them. I'll just right then and there address that part, because I know that there's another part that really wants this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have scheduled a session with me, right? And so I'm going to address the part that is saying, that's getting in the way, that maybe is afraid, that maybe has some strange beliefs about hypnosis, as a lot of people do based on like media and, you know, all that stuff. So I'll address that right there halfway through the induction, or you can address it halfway through the session. There's never a bad time for ego states transformation protocol. Like, honestly, you can bring it in at any point. If there's any place within your session that things aren't flowing. I've even used it when I'm doing regression, and I don't do a whole lot of regression work anymore, but when I do, if I run into a situation where the person is having an abreaction, I'll address the abreaction as if it is its own ego state, because it is. And one thing that Mike Mandela always says is, whatever your problem is, we can probably fix it with ego states transformation. And actually all problems are at an ego state level. And I tend to agree. Maybe not all, but most problems are at an ego state level. And that doesn't mean ego in the sense of like arrogance. It's ego as in the way Freud used it, you know, the ego and the id and the superego. Okay, and so then you might have heard me just sort of repeat back a little bit of what Violetta was saying, and that was just to keep her going. So when she said, you know, and I had to read a poem, and I said poem, and then I was standing in front of everybody and I forgot, and then I just sort of recapped it, and that's just to keep her flowing with that so that we can continue keeping that part there. I also, once we got the name of the part, used the name, and I didn't have to change the name because it turned out that that was an introject. So normally if disturbance had been a real part, I would have, after we've gone through changing what it looks like, changing its job description, all of those things, I would have asked it to give itself a different name, because that solidifies those changes at a subconscious level, even though we're doing it symbolically, but metaphor and symbolism is the language of the subconscious mind. But we didn't end up doing that today because that was an introject as opposed to an actual part. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to deconstruct about this. I know that we're already 8 minutes over. I think that pretty much is all of it. Yeah, so I think now we can go ahead and open it up to any questions. What I would suggest is just go ahead and use those little emoticons and pop your hand up, and that way you can come right up to the top and I can address them. Or if you don't have any questions, that's fine too. No? Okay. And I don't have to, oh, Susan has a question. Yeah, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Susan.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
You said that most problems are at an ego state level. So then why would we ever do the quantum healing if most problems can be addressed with this kind?
Well, that's a highest consciousness. So ego state is all subconscious.
Yeah.
Right? Highest consciousness is its own sort of realm. It's two different types of hypnotic protocol. So just to sort of clarify really quickly, if let's say, for example, I'll just use myself, battling sciatica off and on for a number of years. So I couldn't seem to completely get rid of it through all of the physiological stuff that I was doing, physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, yoga, all that stuff. I started working with it in a hypnotic way. I was able to identify the ego state that's associated with this and worked with it. And I was able to decrease the pain a lot, but not entirely. There's still something else going on there. So in the quantum session, which when I was able to talk to my highest self, and I actually did that with Stephanie Conkle, it turned out my highest self said, yeah, well, there's one thing, which is that on this journey, this path of you trying to figure out how to get rid of this pain, you've come into contact with all of the people that we need you to network with for this leg of your journey in your life. My subconscious is not going to have that information. Only my highest consciousness is going to have that information. And so it was saying, we couldn't let you get rid of it entirely because you haven't yet met all of the people on this journey that you need to meet, that you need to network with. And there's certain healers out there that you're going to meet because you're always trying to release the last part of this pain, which, by the way, is almost all the way gone now, but there's still a little bit hanging on. So out there somewhere is somebody else I need to meet. Could you please just make yourself known to me now so that I can be done with sciatica? That would be great. Thank you very much. Okay. So that's in a nutshell. Do we have any other questions? No? Okay. Well, fantastic. And anybody who is interested in the quantum journeys hypnosis, Christine, I'll get you in just a sec. Just go ahead and pop just say like, yes, please, I guess, in the chat, and I'll find you and I can just reach out to you directly at some point, because I'm going to be doing another live class next Thursday, the 13th, and it'll be the 4th class, which you'll be able to take if you go ahead and get the first 3. So I can just reach out to you if you don't have any, or maybe you have one, but you're missing the others or whatever. Christine, yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself. Still can't hear you. There you go.
Is it? Oh, sorry, it wasn't unmuting. Could we use this in replacement of the traditional RFPI in RTT?
I feel like I shouldn't legally touch that question with a 10-foot pole.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm going to say that I use it in the place of all types of parts therapy. I no longer
Right.
use any other type of parts therapy except for this.
Mm-hmm. I just thought as it was going along, I thought, well, it felt familiar,
Mhm.
but obviously there's a lot more to it. And I thought at the time that sounds, because sometimes I'm having clients coming specifically asking for that modality,
Right.
even though they're in the waiting because they know I'm doing the quantum with you, so they're all sort of quite interested. I keep telling them about that, but I can't do it. I'm not going prepared to do it just yet. And I just thought, well, if I could utilize this, it would be a gentler way of doing it in many ways.
Well, and what I love about it, like in contrast to other types of parts therapy, including RFPI, is that you're coming at it sideways so that the client never actually has to re-experience the initial trauma. Today, we did get a little bit of that with Violetta's because of that introject that has been hitching a ride since she was 4 since she was 4, but then the situation where it really like maybe attached itself was at 7, right? With the poem reading thing. And we saw that she was having this reaction to it. But we were able to deal with that fairly easily and quickly, and then bring in the part that really needed to be. But so the reason why I like ego states, though, is because you can change the state, how it looks, what its job is, what resources, give it whatever it needs in order to be happy, change its name, etc., without having to go into the traumatizing event. So I really appreciate that personally. Having a childhood full of trauma myself that I've healed a lot from, but there's going to just be some parts that, are always going to be there. Just in varying, like, as you heal, it doesn't make them go away, right? You just gain more wisdom, neutralize more triggers, and have, I guess, deeper resources, but you still have, that stuff. And so I don't really always want to have to go in and like refeel those initial traumas. Does that answer your question?
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I wouldn't say that like it's better than RFPI because legally I don't want to touch that. But I will say I use it in the place of all kinds of parts therapy. I don't use any other kind anymore. Any other questions at all? I know we're running over time, so thank you so much for putting up with that. Nope. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And like I said, just pop your email into the chat room if you would like to be on the mailing list so that you can get all of the updates on like guest hosts and upcoming events in the group or whatever. And then just put yes, please. And I'll see that when I look back through, if you want me to contact you about the quantum journeys hypnosis stuff. And in the meantime, if you have any questions about ego states transformation protocol, feel free to pop those into the chat as well, or in the Facebook group, and I'll address them as I see them. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'm not sure who's going to be November's guest host. So that's another thing. If anybody's really gung-ho about getting up on this little stage and sharing their skills and expertise, reach out to me. I would love to schedule you. We have these every month, the first Wednesday of every month, 1 o'clock Pacific time, 2 o'clock Mountain time, 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern, and 9 p.m. UK. After the first of the year, that's going to be changing. We're going to go back 2 hours so that more of our European friends can be involved. So it's not the middle of the night. So, but for now, for November and December, we still have openings. So reach out to me. All right. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.